There were hungry men who gathered, 'cause they heard about a fair. To see Jehovah move among them, it was fasting, it was prayer. And what they found was unexpected, a pouring out that's undefined. Legacy was in the making, a way was paid for us to find. We are standing at the battle line. This is our anthem, this is our cry. To see revival, the nation's free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. the soil of this land. Every child that is living, you will walk with hand in hand. Every color, every name. every tribe and every tongue. They will bow their knees before you as your daughters and your sons. Oh, we believe it, we prophesy, oh, that the seeds that have been planted in the soil of this land, every child that is living, you're gonna walk with hand in hand. Oh, every color, every nation, every tribe and every tongue, they will bow their knees before you as your daughters and your sons. Oh, we are standing at the battle line. This is our anthem. This is our cry. For to see revival in the nations free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, we are standing at the battle line. This is our anthem. This is our cry. For to see revival in the nations free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard. It's a song of hope.
All right. So again, let me just do a quick recap. Everybody, please mute yourself. Corolla, can you just mute everybody except the 4 panel members? And what we're going to do is talk about
No, and I think she's like overcompensating this.
Carl, you are muted. Carl, we cannot hear you.
would like to unmute you. Yes. Okay. There's a lot of clicking going on here. There's a lot of people on the call. So we are recording this. This is Witness 2022. And what we wanted to do was create a time and space where we would mark what we bore witness to in 2022. There are many people that participated in different events around the country. And some of that music that we were just listening to really touched me. And I don't know how much it touched you, but it brought tears to my eyes earlier, as so many of us were part of the convoy to Ottawa. And it evokes a lot of emotion when you see that. We've never seen a country come together as we did in that time and space. And so many of us went to Ottawa with great hopes, and the momentum that built as we traveled to Ottawa and then finally arriving there was one of the events that started the year off with so much hope and so much zest and patriotism. And I thought we would just take a moment here and do a recap of what the year meant. Getting some background noise. Mark, Corolla, please see that everybody's muted except for the 4 people on the panel. And then we'll get you to raise your hands later in where you can participate and say what this year meant to you. So I'm welcoming Walter. Please unmute yourself. A redneck style. I like your handle, buddy. And
Good evening, Carl.
Welcome, Walter. Farmer, I see you there. Franz Buchert, could you just unmute yourself too, please? And introduce yourself as well from where you're from.
I'm Franz, known as Farmer. I'm down in southern Alberta, little town called Burdett.
Wonderful. And Elmer Penner, I see you there. Welcome all the way from Arborg. Hello, buddy. Unmute yourself and just give us a brief intro yourself. You unmute yourself, Elmer?
Unmute yourself first.
Oh, sorry.
There
Okay,
we go.
how's that?
Very good.
You guys hear me now?
Very good. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey,
all.
everyone.
Good,
This is
good.
Elmer here from Arborg. I think a lot of guys might have seen or know about me anyways. been on multiple events. Nice. Feel honored to be on this panel here. So
Yeah, and you know, it's all casual. We want to have just a friendly conversation about what we saw and bore witness to. I've had people write to me, send me their testimonies as well. But I'm going to start with Elmer, if you don't mind, if you unmute yourself. Tell us in your own words within a few minutes, what did 2022 show you? What did you see? What did you learn? And how did it change what you experienced? How was your life impacted by what we witnessed in 2022?
well, you know, there's a lot of probably mixed, confused feelings about 2022. I know especially the Ottawa experience was just like there's nothing we can replace that with other than getting closer to God in our everyday lives. That's how I'm going to put it. There was just a really strong spirit in Ottawa that I think all of us that had left all of us because of the evil side pushing so hard against our freedoms, against our, you know, on everything that we knew that was right. Things were just so wrong. And in Ottawa, finally things felt like they were being restored, getting back to right. I know the outcome wasn't what a lot of us had maybe hoped for. I can't say that it was different than I expected. I kind of didn't think they were going to listen to us at the time. But I think there's a reason for it. And the reason is, you know, had we gotten what we wanted there, which was lifting a couple mandates, we probably would not have seen a lot of the other evils that are coming down the tube right now. And we could have, but right now there's so many people that are seeing it and slowly starting to, every day there's more people that are starting to realize what's going on. And I think it's also preparing us for the fight that we have ahead of us. And not that I know exactly what that looks like, but I think we have very exciting times ahead of us. It doesn't maybe look like it right now. But there's different things coming out and that are being worked on in the backgrounds. There's some of the stuff I know about that's going to come out shortly, I believe. I think the next event that's going to happen is going to be huge, really big. Yeah, it's been a tough year and yet an exciting year.
Excellent. I couldn't agree with you more. We are looking at changes and things that happen. Walter, from your perspective, share, if you can, what it meant to you, because I know it changed your life in coming home. You started up something I don't think you probably ever thought you would start. So I want you to share from that perspective.
Definitely. You know what? In all reality, and a lot of people don't know me. They know me only from the barbecue guy. In reality, I am just absolutely a redneck what went out. And I heard that about the convoy when the convoy came through. And but there was one interesting thing. I always believed on God, and I always prayed, and I said, if I am here, if you want to use me. And I did a lot of barbecues for charities and stuff like that. And I thought that was the road what God wanted me to go. And when I went to the convoy and saw what there was an interesting thing. What pulled me to Ottawa, and we went to Ottawa. And we were on the last week. And when I was in the front line, I was videotaping there. That was a very big thing where I got pepper sprayed twice in the face in Ottawa. And what I see is the freedom. And one very big thing on the very first day, what came out, there was a nurse standing in front of me, and she was crying for help. She was asking the police and everything to come to our side, and she didn't do it. The police didn't do it. And all of a sudden, as I saw, cops came out and pepper sprayed straight her in the face and pepper sprayed me on one side. And that lady, the cops, they went through that lady, they grabbed her as chicken went to food. And I grabbed that lady and I pulled that lady backwards. and give it to the crowd there, the other people that took her away. That is where I came to realize this was not just something that that I wanted to go there. That is where God started speaking to me, that we really do need unity in Canada. And that is a big thing where when I came back, I have prayed a lot. I have worked with a lot of people. And it's not about me. All this, when we built Camp Hope there, everybody would help there. You know what? That is not just me, it's everybody. Yes, I work long hours and long days. But the thing is, I had a vision, and not just a vision, I also had a dream where God took me to that place. And Coral, you know where Camp Hope is right now. And right there in my dream, and I'm going to make that adventure yet in a YouTube video with episodes, that whole thing. But I had 4 dreams, and God took me to that spot where I had a racetrack for my family. That's where we were racing around. And at that spot where God took me, I put the culvert right in there. And that culvert is still marked. And that is the place what God took me in a dream. And when God took me there, he showed me in my dream that spot. But there was a lot of black dots coming there. And just fast forward, today I understand what it was. Back then I did not. That is people what need hope, what need help, because they lost hope in our government and even in our churches. Everything went down with the churches together because they got paid off, and that is our daily bread, what we and what our souls need. And I've been dealing with people back and forth, left and right, center. And then I got to know so many people and got to learn more and more stuff, especially about kids, youth. Right now, I am working very hard across Canada with a couple people. We want to do something for youth. And just to say it about youth, a very short little thing, it is my daughter's friend 2 weeks ago committed suicide, overdose, couldn't handle it anymore. Yesterday was the funeral. It was very, very hard on my daughter. And there are stories after stories what we did. And if we will not focus on our youth, also, not just on the youth, on everybody, but especially on the youth, what is our next generation going to look like? Do we going to have a good generation if we will leave our youth alone and just focusing on everything else? And that is my big thing. You know what? God put me till here, and now I want that what God gave me. I want to bring it out and bring more people. And it doesn't matter. I got so many questions. What is going to happen if we got our freedom back, our government back, that what we need, what we're going to? I said to the people, you know what? We will never, ever give up again, and we will never let this happen again. We will bring people together and stand in unity, that we will not lose any more like this what we did now. And that is a big thing what brought me into this, and willingness to help people and to bring this forward.
Wonderful. Walter, I always appreciate your passion. It always comes out in how you speak. Farmer, we don't know each other very well, but I heard your name often when I was in Ottawa about what you were hearing and experiencing. And I know you've continued to battle on in Alberta. Can you share with us for a few minutes what 2022 was for you as a witness to what you saw and how it changed your life?
I started just to go watch the convoy go by in Medicine Hat. I had one of my guys with me, my wife and my kids. And I'm like, oh, I'll just go to Regina. And then from Regina, it ended up going to Winnipeg and then on. But it was just seeing the people on the side of the boat and talking to them. And it was just moving. And so a guy had to keep going, right? And because we're doing it for a kid. And I didn't want my daughter to wear a mask her whole entire life and get the vaccine. Like, my daughter's unvaccinated. My son is vaccinated. My wife is vaccinated. And I didn't want that for my daughter. I mean, she's young. So I just kept on fighting it. And I'm still fighting it in Alberta every day. helping the guys that are still in jail in Lethbridge, and then the 3 guys that are going up for charges. So no, I just keep fighting it day after day, and just try to wake more people up.
It's
So
safe. It's safe to say, you guys, that none of us thought it would be as big as it was. The momentum just kept growing, and at the time, we all felt this was going to culminate in something significant happening, that perhaps we could actually get the government to listen to this massive humanity that was pleading not only for their own rights and freedoms, but for the rights and freedoms of our generation, of our children and our grandchildren, because someday, as I often say, these people will rule over us, and we want to make sure they know what's right and wrong. And it was just wrong what was happening in the country. We've touched on it a little bit, guys, but I want to ask the question here. Do you think that the churches were far too passive in their response to the events of 2022?
I would say,
go ahead, Walter.
I would say the churches got bought off too much, because the thing is, the church, we are supposed to be going to the church. It's a food for our soul. And that's the same thing, Carl. If I take your food away from the table, you're going to get hungry. And that is what people got. They got hungry. They wanted to know more. They wanted to know about God. And a lot of people, they start asking or doubting their religions. Now they're doubting the churches. Why did the churches do this to go with it? If God is real, why did the churches take God away from us? That is what I hear a lot, and a lot of people asking here at Camp Hope. Why do you think that is? Will the churches stand open now if there's another pandemic coming? Mm-hmm. That is a big question. And you know what? Money is evil, and money does almost everything. And Carl, I sent you a couple pictures there in Bolivia. Just yesterday, they arrested the governor in Santa Cruz, Bolivia, and that's where that starts now too. And that's the same thing with the churches. You know what? If the churches are not going to stay open and feed their food what your soul needs, it's not going to work all together in one.
Elmer, what's your take on that with the church's involvement here? Because I've seen you in church. You're a church attender. You're a believer. I've seen Walter in the same church. You've seen me in the church. I mean, the big C churches. I'm talking about the big C church, the church of the world. Were they just too passive at all of this? What was their position?
Well, I think the majority of the churches, like Walter said, they either got bought off. The thing is, there's also a lot of unknowns, and it wasn't just the churches. It was also because some of the churches, had they tried to be open, their neighbors would have called them in, and they would have gotten into trouble. So, was there a perfect answer? I don't know that there was, but at the same time, had they stood together, it would have worked. But they did not. There's so much division within the churches, and I honestly think that's part of what we're waiting for right now, is for the churches to wake up, and they are. Some of them at least are. But whether they wake up or not, it doesn't really matter. So to say, we need to move forward. All of us, we need to start putting our trust in God and realizing that is the source. In a way, you could almost say whether the church moves forward with this doesn't matter. We need to move forward. We can start new places of worship. We can start our own little groups of unity, because what we need is community is what we need. And really, if you think of what the church should be a community of people that work together and help each other out, is what it really should be. And that we all should have communities that we get together with. And I think all of our communities got broken apart by the agenda the government had. You know, whether however big your group was or your community of what I mean, your friend circle that you relied and trusted in, they almost all of them got broken apart. I mean, I know we've been very fortunate with our families and surroundings. I haven't bought this ever, this lie. So we've always had our place open for whoever wanted to come over to our place. It's always been open. We've always had coffee at our place, and we will continue to do that. We had a big party at our place during lockdown. We had a lot of people come together. So to me, the church is not a building; it's people standing together and doing what's right.
Amen to that. We have known that, and we've made far too much out of churches being buildings, and we've kind of limited our perspective of what the church is. I go to church. You know, the church is you. It is the Spirit of God living in you. Farmer, what was your take out in Alberta? What did you witness from churches and what you saw and how you felt the churches played a role in 2022?
There's a lot of division in the church, especially in Alberta, down where in southern Alberta. There's some people that were for it, some people that weren't. The churches in Alberta, they were mostly closed. There was too many people would just report them right away if they were open up. And like there was that one in Calgary, Pastor Art, like he kept his open, but he also went to jail a few times, right?
James Coates comes to mind as well, of course. Outspoken evangelical who refused to have his church closed, and he suffered for that too.
Yeah. No, I think there was just too much division, like, and then especially with town guys that, you know, that don't care for churchgoers, right?
Yeah.
It's
you know, on a personal observation, I have felt for sometimes that it is possible that in this time and through what happened in 2022. So I'll ask the question, is it possible that God is purging the church? Because we see so many so-called Christians speaking out against what the convoy was about, what the rights and freedoms issue was, and we've been attacking each other even within churches. And I wonder if God is going to be purging the church. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I would say I don't want to comment on that. God is great, and God said as long as we believe on Him and follow Him, He will give us what we ask for. Even if He doesn't give it to you right away, He will give it to you one day. But it's not on your time; it is on His time. So I don't want to say that He is going after the churches or not, because that's not up to me to say.
Elmer, Farmer, your thoughts on that?
yeah,
God...
I don't think God's going after the churches. Like when we were down in Ottawa, like when we didn't know what to do, you know, it all kind of just rolled in together after a bit. If you just kind of waited around, there was a sign there what your next step was, right? And like even now, when I'm doing stuff, if I didn't have a heart to go do it, I wouldn't go do it. So there's always a sign that's saying that you should go do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's, I mean, if a guy goes to church or not, as long as he believes in God, that's a totally different thing, right?
Yeah. You know, just putting it out there to see how many of you would agree with the statement. But to me, one of the most impactful times was the sensing a spirit of unity and also a spirit of God working in the streets of Ottawa while we were there. There was so much unity. There was unity between the East and the West, with many French-speaking separatists, self-declared separatists, coming over and saying, we don't want to be alone. We want to be together in one great country. And many people felt the Spirit of God was in the streets of Ottawa. Do you not think that it was at that time that God was calling people to Himself? And as much as we went to Ottawa with hopes and dreams and aspirations, thoughts of grandeur, thoughts of changing our present situation, it was God who was ultimately calling us to faith and saying, I can do exceedingly more than you could ever ask or imagine.
That is correct.
Go ahead, Walter.
No, they one what I wanted to say, that is right, Carl, what you are saying. When when I went to Ottawa, I had that vision. I wanted to go see what Ottawa is, where the street party is, where everything is happening. I never believed on that I could do what I'm doing now. But when I was in Ottawa, my very first day with the where they were pepper spraying and all that, that night, God spoke to me and God took me to this place to build it. And I know God has something for you as long as you open your eyes and your ears. There's so many people, what this happened. And I always go out from there, like Pastor Leon says, the best is yet to come. And it's not what I'm building, that it's about me building it. It's for we, the people. And if we can start this now, as we do this panel now, we are starting this. Hopefully, when we are leaving this earth, that somebody else is going to take this over and keep on going at that. And that is what I want people to see, to bring the communities back together and stand united. Put the difference to the side and come forward.
Thank you. You know, if the government is moving in a direction that we don't agree with, we have a responsibility as believers to hold them accountable to what they're doing, and in the most Christ-like way, approach that government and let them know that they're stepping out of bounds. Some would disagree with that because there's a particular chapter in Romans, I think it's Romans 13, that was often used against us as believers, that we are to obey the government and submit to the government. And I think James Coates does an excellent dissertation on that passage when he talks about, but love takes you from where you are, but it doesn't leave you there. And because we are the Church of Christ, we have an obligation to speak truth against what we really started to see in 22 was evil. I think the word evil was used more in 2022 than any other time that I can remember. And people became quite comfortable using that where they would otherwise describe the situation in other terms. But we saw people doing wrong and that evil was trying to manifest itself. And we came against it as believers, and we came against it in Ottawa and many other different places where we're finding this, because we know that what we saw here is far bigger than just about rights and freedoms. We are now battling in school classrooms. We're battling in schools and libraries to keep what can be only described as pornographic material out of our school, out of our libraries in our communities. That's having an impact with our children. And so we see another level, another layer being peeled back and showing. And I don't believe we can be passive on this, because as you said, you guys, some of you said, you know, what are our children going to be left with? Some of these kids, you talk about children's suicide farm. I mean, where's that coming from? Where's the pressure coming from? We have to stand up, and in a peaceful, passive resistance way, which was the way of Martin Luther King Jr., we need to come against that. So what is our go forward, guys, as we move into 2023? Because, you know, as it's a popular saying, normal isn't coming back, but Jesus is. So how do we go forward as brothers and sisters and fellow Canadians and believers all in that same? How do we go forward, guys? And then I want to open it up for you guys to share your experience. So if you'd like to speak, just simply raise your hand and we'll bring you on and we'll ask you to unmute. So what's our go forward, guys, with hope? Because we didn't get everything we wanted.
Elmer.
Yes.
Elmer?
Okay. Going forward, I think a very big thing that we all need to focus on, each and every one of us. Well, first of all, we got to have hope. If we don't have hope, we tend to give up. And that's, I think all of us have from time to time struggled with keeping that hope alive. So the thing that I think all of us need to focus on is changing our local environments. And the other thing is we got to speak what we want over our country versus speaking like, because the other side, the evil side, is speaking what they want. They're out there. We've seen lots of YouTube's messages. They're saying what they want, but we need to start saying what we want, and keep proclaiming that freedom, because our words have power, maybe more so than what we think they have. And I when we went to Ottawa, actually probably about 2 weeks before we went to Ottawa, I told everybody, it says, start speaking victory. I don't want any negativity. Start talking as a winner. And we need to do that today, because if we don't, we're gonna bring that whole vibration down, negativity, not only in ourselves but in the surrounding area. And I'm reminding myself right now as I'm talking, is we need to keep speaking positive, and have that winning attitude wherever we go, wherever we are. And don't be shy. Don't make sure you have self-worth and build yourself up. Again, I think that again comes from God, the creator. He's the one that's giving us strength, and that's where the source of power is. That's what I think we need to do, is get involved locally, small. And you might think it doesn't make a big difference, because I think a lot of us went into this, especially going to Ottawa, well, we're going to change the world. But the world changes with one life at a time, and we've seen that over and over. One life at a time is being changed, or is starting to see what's going on. And there is a lot going on. You talk to Ken Drysdale, he's telling of, because he's very actively fighting right now. A lot of stuff happening when you talk to him. And there's more people that I know that things are progressing. You look at what's going on in Alberta. Yeah, I think what's going on in Alberta is gonna come to Manitoba, the sovereignty, and believe. Start speaking positive. And I'm just trying to see here. I got a couple of friends that.
Okay.
Are you still joining new people?
Yes, we are. They're in the waiting room, and Corolla will bring them in. Farmer, I want you to talk about that, because Elmer's just touched on it here, about what's happening in Alberta. What can you share with our viewing audience tonight about what's coming? Because it's making headlines and news. I got a call yesterday from a reporter, wanted to know what I was going to be sharing about the Unity Convoy. Is it going to be different than the convoy of 2022?
It's supposed to be different. I don't know a whole lot about it yet. On what they're all, I haven't really researched into it yet. I was going to start doing that. I know, yeah, I don't know a whole lot about it on that.
Elmer,
part.
were you on a call the other day? Is there anything you can share with now? Because we have people on different chat rooms. City News did a report on it here in Winnipeg, and I believe CTV did one last night about what they're anticipating, because Winnipeg has been chosen as a center gathering point, a muster point for the country. What's going to be different if this comes together, Elmer, in your opinion?
Well, the whole focus on this is the unifying of all nations. It's all about coming together, every nation, every race, every tribe, coming together. I mean, we've seen that in Ottawa, but that kind of what it happened in Ottawa, kind of as a side effect, you could say. But this here is literally a call to unify. I almost don't want to call it a trucker convoy. I mean, you can call it whatever you want. But the important thing is that nations come together, and there's going to be a lot more information going to be shared shortly, I believe, as to what's all planned. And I don't know that yet, but I know there's plans in the works. Just keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, and expect a lot of good stuff to come out in the next while here, because we want to make this a really successful, great event of love and unity. And I think the thing that we need to realize is, and I'm, again, a lot of stuff I'm saying is I'm working on that myself. I'm definitely not perfect in it by a long shot, but we all have people that we can almost say they hate us or we hate them for the stand that we took. But we got to realize that most of those, all also have kids, they have grandkids that will be affected by what's coming down. It's just that they don't know it yet. And they are fellow human beings, even though they're different than us and largely they just don't see what we're seeing. And I think the other thing we got to be careful too is not all the information that we get is necessarily right either. I think sometimes we get the opposite pushed on us too much as well. So we just got to be careful on that as well, to try and get together with your neighbor, whether you agree on stuff or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's been touched on and said before. There is a point where every one of us can be involved in a kind and gentle way, but in a firm way, in an uncompromising way, to stand up for what is right and oppose that which is evil and wrong. And I think it's that steady drip that's going to win some of these people over. We have to recognize that some people just haven't been sparked yet. They haven't come alive yet to the truth of what's happening in this world and who ultimately is in charge of this world. We know that our Creator God has a hand in everything that is happening. He's not absent from this fight. He's right in the center of it. And I think first what we need, and I speak this as well, Elmer, as an imperfect man, is we have to have peace in our hearts to be able to transmit peace out to people and cause them to take on a peaceful stand.
Yeah, from that, exactly what you're saying, Carl, that is 100% right. And if we going to have peace in our heart, if we make peace with ourselves, that's when we can give peace. And when you have peace with yourself, that's when you can give love. And when you have love, that's when you can bring unity. But going back a little bit from the convoy, I know a lot of it, I have to be very careful what I'm saying. And Camp Hope is going to help and support. It is not a convoy, and I would not want to bring this because a convoy, you cannot relive that convoy anymore. That was
I agree.
Once.
Yeah.
So
Once in a lifetime.
That's exactly. Now this, what we should say, or for sake, just saying an anniversary. This is to come together like an anniversary, but there's going to be a lot of speakers. And I start hearing already that they're making ready in Winnipeg for the trucks. They're going to block all the trucks and campers and stuff like that. So that's what I'm starting to hear. But again, you know what? There is a backup, and I don't want to say too much yet, go into that yet too much. But there is a backup, and there is about 45 acres what we can use and bring forward with that.
Okay. You know what? I just want to open it up now. If you would like to share an experience, I see A is here. You have an experience to share. I want you to take 2 or 3 minutes and share your personal experience of what you heard and saw in 2022. And I'll ask you to unmute yourself and then go ahead with your question. You have your hand up, A? Sorry, I don't know who you are. Okay, the question's down. Anybody else? Rainmaker, you actually physically have your hand up. So I'm gonna go to you and ask you to unmute yourself and share with us what was 2022 for you.
Okay, just first of all, it's actually Chief JD Anderson. He's just on my phone, so that's him. Here you go, Chief.
Okay, thank you. Hello, Chief Anderson. I believe I met you in Ottawa.
Yeah, this is Rainmaker.
Okay.
Hey, Angel.
And her Marty.
Hey, Marty.
Marty. And of
Wonderful.
course, I'm the no-name
Hey,
chief.
how's it going, Chief?
Anderson, we were just out at the landfill at Brady here doing a ceremony with the missing and murdered Indigenous women, supporting what has transpired here in Winnipeg, and it's been going on across the nation. But we were involved this year, right from the get-go when the convoy came through at Headingley. I sat with Elmer's neighbor in the truck after I was doing all the ceremony of blessing the trucks coming through. Then we drove to Ottawa, met them there, did the blessings as they were out on the street, and then we drummed and we sang, and we set up in Confederation Park and continued that whole motion all the way through and guided from Coventry.
That's where I
And
met you, was on Coventry. We did an interview very late at night with Todd McDougall from Winnipeg Alternative Media. Tell me though, in your own words, how did 2022 impact your life?
It brought us together into the unity and going out and meeting all of the inherent and hereditary chiefs across the nation, because we need that to bring the Constitution into proper ratification. Since 1867, we've never had a Canadian Constitution because it was never signed or never dated. So therefore, Rupert's Land and all of the unceded territories have never been included. And so I brought together the people from the east out of Quebec and signed a constitution with them while we were there at Coventry, and also got acceptance from the Haudenosaunee, the warriors, tribal nations, to come together and challenged us to set up our own area in here, and they will come and support us so that we can create this unification process with all the rest of the nations in Canada, so we can create that ratification. And I think this is the constitutional process that we can push forward in and for. When we do that, we have a stepping stone in addressing all of the inequities and the equalities with respect to how the government's been treating each and every one of us. And I was saying in speeches all across the nation, with as we journeyed out last year after the Every Child Matters, and we went right all the way speaking with regards to the COVID, all the restrictions, and addressed it. And then I was involved with some of the people out in Edmonton, and it came from the teepee. And that's why we did what we did. And we brought a lot of controversy ourselves in doing some of the things that we did. But we stand together, and it was great meeting Elmer the other night. Travis has been there, and many others like yourself. And we look forward. Our meeting was canceled tonight. There's a couple other things that are transpiring, and people are trying to put this together in the proper perspective that we need. And we have to inform those authorities as well, so that we can keep this all peaceful, like you were saying.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, if you are looking for anything specific with regards to this year, maybe I can let Rainmaker talk a bit. He might be able to bring some more accuracy that I might have forgotten.
Okay, yeah, Rainmaker, take a couple of minutes and just tell us what 2022 meant to you and to your cause of unity.
Well, for me, what I seen mostly was the great wave of awakening. People are awakening, and some a lot slower than maybe we like or hope to. And I think this part will help that. Again, like you said, it's a slow drip for some, and for some it's pouring water. So, but for me, what I seen out in Ottawa when we went there, it was just an amazing event, and it gave me a lot of hope, and it's changed my perspective on a lot of things. I didn't realize that the country was actually quite so asleep, if that's the proper language for it. There's so many people asleep that don't realize what's really happening to them, and the government continues to try to lock us down with weather storms and COVIDs and flu season or whatever they put forward. And I just see that people are starting to rebuke that as they're waking up. And the problem, I think a lot of the problem is that I think that I've noticed is that the government is not giving up. They're not going to go away on their own. They've got to be held accountable. And the only way that we can hold them accountable is with events like this, and we can't back down. And another one like this, I think, will be imperative for the country to see again, because it's like it says, no, we're not going anywhere either. They continue to push their narrative on their controlled media, which I believe most of us are aware that Trudeau has bought out the media with how many hundreds of millions, or maybe even a billion. I don't even know the number. I just know it's extravagant.
13
And so
billion.
so there you go, right there. You just can see that even some of my family is starting to see, as I'm steady going on this, is that they're starting to come around and they're starting to realize like something's really not right with the way they've seen things. So I think we just got to keep on pushing, and that's what I'm starting to see. How it affected me personally, it brought me to tears in a lot of ways, because I don't like to see so much division in the country, and it's really literally heartbreaking, and so for me, it's just like, okay, we just got to keep going, let's just keep going forward no matter what. And I know like some people were thrown into the jails over this, and there was riot squads and all kinds of unnecessary aggression from the government and their cronies and their henchmen, or whatever you want to call them. And so we might get some of that here too, depending on how it's handled. And like you were just mentioning there, that that's a possibility, because they're already talking about blocking things. So with caution, but steady moving forward regardless, and keeping and making helping the people to understand that this is going to happen, and just move forward. But on a personal basis, I thank you guys for everything you're doing. And I've changed my mind a lot, even myself, I changed my mind on certain things and certain topics, and I think we all change our minds as the time goes on, because the more educated we become on certain topics, we change. So it's a matter of educating people as we move forward, because I know surely to goodness to God, I've been in school over the last year myself over all this stuff. And even before that, my education started just on a personal journey towards truth and peace, and trying to be kinder, more productive person to society. And then I run into things like the government, and then you realize that the corporations that are running it through the banks, because the banks are the one who give the corporations the money, and then who controls the banks? We all know who those guys would be. The families, there's many families above the banks that control them. So at the end of the day, I think we just got to educate and keep educating. And I'm sure I've got a lot more to learn, but I know that the truth is coming out, and I think it's part of moving into a new age. And we're moving into a new age, and it's known as Aquarius. We've left the age of Pisces. So I think in a spiritual matter, we're going to all be waking up spiritually. And however that looks for each individual, whichever spiritual path you're on, your spiritual awakeness will come even quicker. And I think that's important for all us to understand. Chimigwich.
Thank you, Rainmaker. I want to move along here. We've got a couple hands up, and we're getting to the top of the hour here. Barbara, did you have a call or something you wanted to share with us? Your hand was up, and I think Beverly as well. But I see your hands are down now, so I'm not sure if you had a hand up or not. But you're welcome to share. Anyone would like to share? Raj, well, maybe that's just my hand on you. I just want to share that it's important that from a personal standpoint, and Rainmaker, you were touching on it, some of this evoked a lot of emotion in us. And when I saw that happen, I realized that evil lurks in my heart too. And my reaction to everybody who I was opposed to because of their lack of compassion, their lack of understanding, their wokeness and not being awake, so there's a big difference, stirred it up in me. And I realized that I had to settle some of these issues in my heart too, to be able to pass on, because what you haven't received in the aspect of peace, you cannot pass on. If you don't have peace in your heart, in your life, and I certainly was in turmoil this year as the emotions were running extremely high.
You know
And I
what, Carl?
realized I had to go to God to get that peace.
You got that exactly right. And I found that out experience at Camp Hope, dealing with so many people and hundreds of people. I had to dig deep into my heart and really come to myself and say, you know what? This is God put this together. He doesn't want this about me. It's about God. So I had to let go so many things. And I am still learning. I am not perfect. I am an ordinary redneck. But the thing is, I'm trying to follow what God wants. And if we will do that, then we will get back together. We have to put our differences to the side and move forward.
Thank you. Well said. Anybody want to share a personal testimony? Just either unmute yourself or put your hand up, and we'll give you a few minutes to share what you experienced, what you saw, what you bore witness to in 2022. Anybody else that would like to go with their testimony about what this year meant to you, what you saw and heard and experienced? We want to open it up now for people to share. All right. So I'm not seeing any hands. So Daryl raised 10. Daryl, please go ahead. Thank you. Friend of mine from Calgary. Please share, Daryl.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry I'm late. Sorry I'm late, Carl. No, what I did notice this year, 2022 and 2021, is the level of corruption in not only on our bureaucrats, but the government. But also I noticed the churches, unfortunately, were asleep. And they allowed a lot of this stuff happen. So that really disturbed me a little bit. But I all realized that I was part of the issue too, because I was asleep for years and years and years. Right, just get comfortably numb, as like if I can steal that from Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd.
Yeah, comfortably numb. Well, we're too busy being busy and comfortable and asleep. We weren't really aware of some of the stuff that was going on, or we didn't stand up. We just let it slide. So that's what I really noticed over these last couple of years. And I know I was part of the problem. I was a little more awake than everybody else, but it was kind of shock that we've let it go this far for so long. So thanks for letting me share.
You bet. Thanks for joining the call, Daryl. Daryl and I have been friends for a long time, and we communicated on and off while everything was going on. So I know Alberta had, and I know from Farmer, a big part in what was happening in 2022. And again, going into 2023, we've just got a few minutes left. And if anybody wants to share something here, I'll certainly give you that moment. But guys, any closing remarks from our panel, from Walter or Farmer, Elmer? Anybody you'd like to make any closing remarks about what you see going into 2023 and how we need to set ourselves up, as you say, Elmer, speaking positively, sending out positive thoughts and positive words to set the stage, to push back on that negativity?
Chief Anderson here. I'd like to thank you as well for opening the door. And we know that the Creator works in our lives and guides us and directs us in this movement. We look forward to seeing more establishment, but we have to set proper protocols for protection. My testimony was the love and the peace that was shown on Capitol Hill, and with that unification is very important in bringing the people together. But we must be careful of how we use unity, because it's being abused. I was reminded of that tonight. And that when we move forward, we have to create a new name for the convoy process if we're going to push through with this, and create an open door and create protection and supply chain management, so we don't have to deal with a lot of the issues. And I think we have some very good supports out there, but we can talk on an administrative level or executive protective process that we'll discuss with Elmer and yourselves in a different context. In that process, I did step up at the convoy, the commission, and put together some papers and shut them down. I mentioned that to Elmer, but I utilized the genocide that was used on us, and that's what our claim is. And I, as a living survivor, had that right to do so, and that all of the legalitarians that were there on behalf of the government would not step up on those last 2 days. They shut down as soon as I put that paper in front of them.
All right.
And it's sitting before the Hague. So
Thank you for sharing that, Chief Anderson. Again, it was a pleasure to meet you in Ottawa, and it's good to have you on our call tonight. In a minute or less, I'm just going to ask our panel to make a closing remark in a few minutes that are left here. Who would like to go first?
I'll go. Hey, no, just I want to say thank you everyone for standing up strong. Just keep it up. Also, a little side note: we were going to do a New Year's Eve party at our place. Anyone and everyone is welcome. We just ask guys to either bring chairs or a little salad or dessert, whatever. We'll supply all the main course will be supplied here. There's going to be skating, bouncy castles. We'll have some fireworks. Just come on down. But hey, 2022 is a great year. 2023 will be better. Keep the hopes up.
Amen.
Amen.
Go with God.
The best is yet to come.
Walter, go ahead.
Definitely, Amar, I totally agree with you. And thank you, Chief Anderson, for standing up. And I think I met you once in Winnipeg, Chief Anderson. One day we're going to probably have more time to talk to each other. And if not, you can get my number from Almar. So, but that's not the thing. 2022, it was a year of reminding where God really showed us, I need you guys to wake up, and where he woke us up. Now there's so many people are waking up already. Now what God wants us to take the people and stand united and make 2023 better than we had before, and put the difference to the side. And like Chief Anderson said, the unity gets abused very, very quickly. And a lot of people, they will try to take advantage of this get together or the anniversary, what is going to happen again. And they want to try to make money from that. But that is not that. What I see this whole thing coming together, and so far what has been asked from Camp Hope, you know what, this is just unity, and we want to do that from the bottoms of our hearts. And I talked already to the Hutterite colonies. The Hutterite colonies, they're standing right behind Camp Hope with this, and they are totally supporting this. And that is what we want. We want to show their love. And when we can show one or two people their love, and that they can show other people their love, if you look at the picture, it's going to spread bigger, and bigger. And that is what we want to make. Let's all together, stand united, and let's make 2023 much better. And I thank each and every one what has been on here so far.
Farmer, share with us in a minute or less what 2023 is going to mean to you, and what's our go forward there.
My go forward for 2023, I'm going to work with, see if I can get more college up and letting them know what's going on. That's kind of my goal right now. Is a lot of those kids are asleep because I got a kid in college and they don't know much on what's going on. So, but thanks for having
reaching out to youth. Beautiful.
Yeah. Carl, quickly to say, if you guys know strong leaders across Canada, introduce them to me, because we want to work with youth. In 2023, we want to really focus on our youth, that we can bring them and wake them up again, and that they are not going to be so much commit suicide. That is our focus for Camp Hope. 2023, it is our biggest focus and goal is on youth.
Amen. And that's what my closing remarks are going to be. We have been fighting here in Winkler to get our town council to do the right thing and push these books out of our libraries, which are funded by taxpayers, books that by any standard are very inappropriate to have. And but we have seen that parents' rights in this country are being set aside and pushed down. And what we want to see is parents rising up, fathers, mothers, grandparents, grandparents standing up for our youth, giving them a firm basis on which to build a life and not have them be confused by agenda that's coming from a very evil source that would seek to undermine their foundation of who they are. God only made boys and he made girls, and he made them for a reason that way. And we need to assure these kids that they are valuable in the eyes of their parents, their friends, but most valuable in the eyes of God. There are no mistakes that God has made. And we want to make sure that these kids are being able to combat this sexual dysphoria that's coming into their mindset and causing young people at beautiful young ages to take their lives in silly acts of desperation and confusion. They are the hope of our nation. And we want to be able to raise up a nation of young people that are going to stand firm on truth and righteousness wherever they find it. There is a code that is built into us, and we know it when we hear evil, when we see it, when we feel it. Pay attention to that tension. It's real. And find a place, each one of us, find a place to stand our ground, plant a flag and say, this is not open for negotiation. We will defend this because it is worth defending. And we go with God in all of these matters. If we are able to surrender our lives to God, to commit our spirit to his and align ourselves in good spirit, he will be faithful to give us the tools of what we need. And as you said earlier, Walter, not when we need it, in God's perfect time, to soften the hearts of people that have become hardened. And it's that slow drip of love and truth that's going to win them over. We can't walk in there with a fire hose and feed them that way. It's not going to work. A slow drip will win this over, and standing together for what's right and opposing what's wrong, calling it out and putting it onto the item or the agenda and not the person. That is a big mistake we make in relationship. We combat the other person. What we are combating is that which is affecting our relationship. We know that as believers, sin is anything that separates us from God, and God never hates us. He hates the sin that separates us. And in community, guys, we can love those people and hate what it is that's dividing us. In communities, in churches, wherever we are, put the blame where it belongs, not on that person, because this becomes a tug of war. And you know, you rarely win in a tug of war. In fact, the only way you do is drop your end of the rope and start to talk instead of pulling and pushing and bullying and cajoling. That's the way we're being treated. Let's not let them affect who we are. Garth Brooks writes a great song. What we do so that the world won't change us, guys.
That is correct, Carl. And can I just read for the end here? This is a remark what I had to write myself down. A lot of times I write stuff down for myself.
Please
and I
share
would
it.
like to give this to everybody. No matter how many steps you walk away from God, it only takes one to get back to him. I would like to give that to everybody to think about that.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been a pleasure to meet all of you. Many of you were unknown to me at the beginning of the year, and now I count you as friends and brothers and sisters in Christ. And it's wonderful to know that, and we grow this community by preaching that out and teaching it out and reaching it out in a love-filled, kind, and gentle way. So, guys, I wish you all the best. And going into 2023, let's stay positive and let's go with God. God bless you all.
Amen.
And thank you all for
Thank you.
coming on this call.
You bet. Amen.
All right. Amen. Good night, everybody.